Hi team, I just wanted to make this video to kind of recap some of the education that I went over in the meeting yesterday. I felt it was something that was really important. It was more me discussing some things that had happened to me and things that had happened to some of my clients, and just some food for thought in terms of how to approach certain types of things that you would potentially run across with clients. And the obvious answer may not necessarily be that. So to give you a little bit of background story, I usually go to the Speedway or the Circle K or the Giant frequently, whether it be get protein bars, whatever the case may be. Well, anyway, I was between clients, ran over there, ran back, and for some reason I didn't twist my ankle, I didn't step wrong. All of a sudden I just got like this horrible pain in my foot, and I couldn't put pressure on it. Did not understand what happened. Ultimately, it felt like, it didn't feel like plantar fasciitis. It didn't feel like I pulled an Achilles tendon. Just all of a sudden I went into a run and I couldn't put pressure on my foot. So I was hobbling around for at least a day, maybe 2 days. Well, Roxanne saw that I was in pain, and as a sweetheart, she, during one of our personal training sessions, she spent about 20 minutes of our session doing some Egoscue treatment, because I told her the story of what had happened. And so she pulled me aside, had me do a lot of rotational work, things like lying crocodile, a lot of rotation stuff against the wall, and a few other things that really had nothing to do with my foot. And after that 20 minutes, I stood up and I was able to put full pressure on my foot, completely pain-free. It was the weirdest thing. And so it got me thinking, and especially if you guys have been to the last few meetings, I've been posting a lot of different videos, whether it be with Jeff Cavalier from Athlean X. And one of the things that Jeff had mentioned that really stood out to me was one of the last videos of tight hip flexors. And tight hip flexors doesn't necessarily mean that it's stemming from sitting down for long periods of time, even though that is something that can be a contributing factor. But when you have a client that has tight hips, especially when it comes to squatting or some other different types of exercises that they're not really engaging the hip, but all of a sudden the muscles get tight, well, it doesn't necessarily mean that we need to stretch the hip flexor. Sometimes it's something else, and the hip is basically tightening itself to protect that area. So as much as we know, the hip is supposed to be a very mobile part of the body. And if the hips are tight, typically it means that there's something that's wrong in another part of the body. And so whether it be weakness in the core, maybe weakness in the internal external rotators, something needs to be addressed. So now, taking things back to where I had gone earlier, you know, the human body is really incredible in the essence that it is designed in a very specific way. And once we get away from the original design, the compensatory movements that we utilize cause our body to do really weird stuff. And with that compensatory movements will cause tightness in areas that we don't necessarily want, and will cause pain in areas that we don't necessarily want. And so as a whole, our bodies are meant to rotate, where our bodies are meant to have thoracic extension and thoracic rotation. And so being able to take a body and to be able to restore what it is that it was originally capable of doing does some pretty incredible things to help release specific areas of the body. I'm going to give you another example of a client that I took over for Bernard. Is Mark Royer comes in first thing in the morning. He's pretty internally rotated, his hands kind of flat back in the other direction. But he came in complaining of hip tightness. His hamstrings were really tight. His left glute was really tight. And he came in and, during his warm up, he started stretching himself, and I asked him what was going on, and he explained. And so I wanted to do a little bit of an analysis. So I had him lie prone to the floor and doing, it's almost like that, lifting the leg to kind of see, what was wrong with his body, whether his internal rotators were weak or his external rotators were weak. And one thing that I thought was absolutely fascinating was that as he lied prone to the floor and I had him do the lift leg test, his right side, he was able to do just fine, and he felt it in the gluteus medius and the gluteus minimus without a problem. He did that on the other side, and he didn't feel it there. He felt it to the front of the hip, which I thought was absolutely weird because, well, that's not the function of the muscle. The gluteus medius and the minimus are what's responsible for helping abduct the leg away from the body. And if he's not feeling it there, so what's going on? And thinking, okay, well, he's probably rotating his hip, again, as a compensatory type of movement, and that's probably what's causing a lot of the issues that he's currently having. So knowing that he's having some hip issues, I took it upon myself to put him through some Egoscue posture stuff. So a lot of rotational things against the wall crocodile, lying crocodile, the one where you cross the legs over and allow it to flop over. There's another one, it's almost like a figure four and you go in the other direction. If you guys want these movements, I'm sure Roxanne will definitely tell them to you, or if you just pull me aside, I can show you exactly the movements that I had him do. I also had him go onto the slant board and do wall drop and gravity drop and a couple different things. Not once did I tackle his hamstrings or his glutes or his hip flexors. I didn't stretch anything. Primarily, all of the Egoscue treatment stemmed from thoracic rotation and restoring that, and restoring his ankle mobility into dorsiflexion and getting him more dorsiflexion through his movements. And the most incredible thing is, after everything's said and done with all of those movements, his hips had released, and I didn't touch them whatsoever. His hamstring flexibility was exponentially better. His glute flexibility was exponentially better, and he was no longer complaining of his hips being tight. So the moral of the story is, and something just to kind of think about when it comes to a lot of your clients, is that if a client's complaining of a tight muscle, or if a client has particularly tight muscles in particular areas, it doesn't necessarily mean that's something that we should automatically stretch. Looking at the fundamentals and the mechanics of the body, and looking at the posture of the body, is it off? And what can we do to help address the original function and the form of the body? Because the tightness could be a symptom of something else. And if we're just stretching that part of that body, then we're just tackling the symptom. We're not tackling the problem. So something to think about. And if you guys have any questions on this video, I would love to answer them for you. Long and short of it, our posture therapists, Roxanne and Sarah, do incredible work. And I highly recommend, all my clients to see them when it comes to getting pain-free and expanding upon what it is that they currently know about movement and restoring their body. If you have any questions, just come and grab me. You guys know where to find me. You guys have an awesome day. Thank you.